It's 6 p.m. on a Tuesday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the headlines. It's confirmed Korea will go ahead with its plan to oversee the creation of a single state-authorized history textbook. The Prime Minister vows the new books will be based on objective facts as the opposition party launches protests and a parliamentary boycott. Korea and Japan are hoping to work toward finding common ground on the Japan's wartime sex crime against Korean women issue. Government officials say more talks on the issue will be held soon. The United States says its recent sail-by in waters claimed by China poses no threat to other countries, even as it vows to continue patrols there on a regular basis. The South Korean government has made it official. The Education Ministry will oversee the publication of a single state-authored history textbook for the nation's middle and high school students. Our Ji Myung-kil has our top story.
Prime Minister Kyo-ahn and Education Minister Woo-yea called on the public to support the government's textbook plan. Speaking at the government complex in Seoul, the Prime Minister said they want to provide students with history textbooks that are not biased and present what they call a proper description of Korean history.
We cannot teach our children using history textbooks that are distorted and biased. The government will publish textbooks that are based on objective fact and that are faithful to Korea's constitutional values.
The Prime Minister went on to say that the government cannot rely on the current system, in which 8 private companies publish history textbooks, pending government approval.
Although the government recommends private history textbook publishers to revise distorted contents, they have a tendency to refuse suggestions, even filing lawsuits against the government.
Education Minister Woo-yea sought to reassure the public about concerns that the government would try to whitewash modern Korean history. He said the public has no reason to worry.
Considering Korea's social maturity, it would be unthinkable to publish history textbooks with favorable description of Japanese collaborators or their country's military dictators and related events.
By mid-November, the Education Ministry hopes to put together a team of history scholars and teachers who will write the books. The National Institute of Korean History will be in charge of making the historical content neutral and ensuring the books have a balanced perspective. Ji Myung-kil, Arirang News.
And how is the parliament reacting to the government's decision to stick to its history textbook plan? Well, the opposition bloc has been adamant that the government changed the plan, but with today's announcement, the party has determined to continue its protest. For more, we turn to our Park Ji-won.
Lawmakers from the New Politics Alliance for Democracy Party have been protesting at the National Assembly since Monday night, when the government's decision to move forward with its textbook plan was made official. Party leader Moon Jae-in characterized the move as dictatorial.
Our party will stand with the public. We will confront this group that opposes liberal democracy, and we will confront dictatorship. We will protect academic freedom and neutrality in education.
Party floor leader Lee Jong-gol also criticized the government for not taking enough time to collect opposing views on the issue from the public. He said the party had delivered a petition to the Education Ministry with more than 1 million signatures opposing the government decision, but the government hasn't taken it into consideration. Vowing to continue its protest, the party boycotted a planned parliamentary session on Tuesday, which also caused a confirmation hearing for the prospective fisheries minister to be delayed. The ruling Saenuri party, which sides with the government on the issue, slammed the opposition for the boycott. The party said lawmakers should instead focus on their jobs and deal with other more pressing issues, such as the current deliberations over next year's budget.
The NPAD is turning a blind eye to the people's livelihoods and using history education as a means of political gain. This shows the party is only thinking about elections.
Addressing concerns about the government's motives, the party vowed to keep the textbooks free of descriptions that gloss over South Korea's dictatorial past, saying society would not allow that to happen. For now, though, it's hard to say when or how the standoff between the parties will be resolved, but it looks like it will continue for quite a while. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Seoul and Tokyo made a landmark agreement at summit talks on Monday to work together to address Japan's wartime sex crime. But questions linger over how committed Tokyo truly is to resolving the matter while surviving victims are still alive. Song Ji-san follows up on this story.
In an interview aired after his return to Japan on Monday, Prime Minister Abe once again reiterated Tokyo's stance that its wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women was settled in a 1965 treaty that normalized relations between Seoul and Tokyo. But he also said efforts would continue towards resolving the issue. Finding a resolution that is supported wholly by both countries will not be easy. However, Abe expressed that it should be possible to find common ground through negotiations. Here in Seoul, reviews are mixed on whether the bilateral summit was a success. Some, including surviving victims, think no major headway was made since no date was set to reach a final resolution.
The Korean government must proactively act towards resolving this matter before the end of the year. Tokyo should admit to its wrongdoings now and ask for forgiveness. I want our dignity and honor to be recovered before we all die.
Progress between the two sides has been more stop than go, but with fresh vows to create a resolution, there is renewed hope moving forward.
The two countries will work to resolve the sex slavery issue at the earliest possible date through official high-level talks as held previously. As for the schedule of the meetings, we'll arrange the date with diplomatic agendas in mind.
This means the 10th round of high-level talks on the wartime sex slaves could be held in the coming days or weeks. There are chances that separate diplomatic channels could be used to conclude negotiations by the end of this symbolic year, which marks the 70th anniversary of Korea's independence. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
U.S. Army Chief of Staff Mark Milley is optimistic about the prospects for reunification of the two Koreas, given that they share the same language and heritage. Speaking at the 3rd Annual Defense One Summit in Washington, Milley said that although the process of bringing the two Koreas together could be either peaceful or violent, the U.S. favors gradual reunification through peaceful diplomacy. Discussing an incident in which the North planted landmines inside the DMZ in August, Milley said that constant provocations between the two Koreas, though small in scale, could turn into a large-scale war. He added that China does not have much influence over decisions being made by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, but could eventually exert control over its longtime ally. Tensions between the United States and China are on the rise, with both countries imposing their presence over waters near artificial islands built by China in the South China Sea. The U.S. says it has a right to be in the area and doesn't recognize China's claim of sovereignty. Neither side seems ready to back down. Our Connie Kim tells us more.
A top U.S. defense official says freedom of navigation operations by the United States should not be viewed as a threat to any nation after the U.S. challenged China's claims to artificial islands it's building in the South China Sea. U.S. Pacific Command Commander Admiral Harry Harris said Tuesday during a trip to China, Washington has been conducting freedom of navigation operations all over the world for decades, so no one should be surprised by them. He also reiterated that the U.S. takes no position on competing sovereignty claims to land features in the area. Underscoring the U.S. assertion, a U.S. defense official had said Tuesday, the U.S. Navy plans to conduct patrols within the 12 nautical mile limit about twice a quarter. Tensions between Washington and Beijing escalated last week after an American destroyer sailed within 12 nautical miles, or 20 kilometers, of the man-made islands China claims. 12 nautical miles around a territory is internationally recognized as sovereign territory, but the U.S. does not recognize China's claim to artificial islands in the area. The Spratlys are a disputed group of more than 750 reefs, islets, atolls, cays, and islands claimed by China and 4 other countries, including Vietnam and the Philippines. Beijing has so far held firm on its stance, saying it'll never allow any country to violate its territorial waters and airspace in the area. In a meeting with former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger on Monday, Chinese President Xi Jinping said the two countries should deal with the issue from a strategic position seen as indirect pressure on Washington to back down. In an apparent response to the U.S. challenge, China's Navy reportedly sent fighter jets over the Spratlys on Friday after the U.S. sailed by. Retired Chinese General Xu Guangyu noted that it's the minimum level of response China should have, or it'll fall short of public expectations. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
South Korea's reliance on China for trade has hit a record high. Data from Statistics Korea and the Trade Ministry show China took 23.2% of Korea's imports and exports in the first 3 quarters of the year. That's up 1.8 percentage points from the same period last year. The accumulated value of exports through September this year was even higher at 25.7%. However, experts say the figures are more reflective of Korea's falling exports to other major trade partners like Japan and the European Union than increased shipments to China. Samsung Electronics may miss its sales target this year as the company's smartphone shipments continue to weaken. The Korean tech giant had set its target at 200 trillion Korean won or $176 billion. Local research firm FN Guide projects Samsung to post 200.9 trillion won in sales in 2015, but with cautious optimism. Some analysts say it will be a close call for Samsung this year amid fierce competition from Apple and up-and-comers from China. The silver lining is this: demand for TVs and smartphones tend to spike toward the end of the year. Samsung Electronics was the first Korean company to achieve the 200 trillion won mark in 2012 after racking up over 100 trillion won from its mobile sector alone. Since then, the tech firm has not missed a target, but sales and operating income have been falling due to tepid smartphone sales. More trouble for Volkswagen. U.S. regulators claim to have found more models fitted with the emissions rigging software that disgraced the German automaker. And for the first time, Porsche models are also said to be involved. Kwon Jang-ho has the details.
The Environmental Protection Agency on Monday said Volkswagen has once again failed in its obligation to comply with the law that protects clean air for all Americans. The agency says it has found more cars with the emissions rigging software that has rocked the German car maker. The new batch of vehicles is equipped with the 3-litre diesel V6 engine, a bigger engine than the ones identified previously. The models involved are the 2014 Volkswagen Touareg, the 2015 Porsche Cayenne, and the 2016 Audi A6 and A7 Quattro, the A8, the A8L, and the Q5. This is the first time Porsche, a brand owned by Volkswagen, has been involved in the scandal. And it could be bad news for Volkswagen new chief executive, Matthias Müller, who was previously the head of Porsche and who was brought in to deal with the current crisis. Porsche has said it is surprised by the allegations, and Volkswagen has also denied the new claims, saying that the cars had a software function which had not been adequately described to regulators, and that they are looking to clarify the matter. If the allegations are confirmed, though, it could mean more recalls, fines and lawsuits, on top of the multi-billion-dollar bill that Volkswagen is already facing. In South Korea, the government on Tuesday announced plans to carry out its own investigation into the models identified by the EPA. This comes on the heels of an investigation that is already taking place into the Volkswagen and Audi vehicles associated with the original scandal. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
At least 3 out of 10 Koreans are said to be employed in jobs that require emotional labor, which requires workers to regulate their emotions as part of their jobs. Think about nut job or the nut rage incident. It's a skill that's been linked to high levels of stress, but has not been legally recognized as an occupational hazard until now. Oh Soo-young looks into what's being done to remedy the side effects of the customer is always right.
2 shop assistants kneel to appease an angry customer.
No, ma'am. That's the company policy.
Yes, I told you I get that. But like I said, you should sort out your own service.
Elsewhere, telemarketing staff struggle to maintain a friendly tone, even on the receiving end of verbal abuse.
I had to deal with swearing, sexual remarks, and even insults about my parents.
Their jobs are among the countless service professions in Korea for which employees are required to maintain a certain conduct or expression to accommodate their clients. Such emotional labour generates high levels of work-related stress. Yet only people who undergo stress because of a physical injury are eligible for workers' compensation. That's why starting early next year, the Korean government will carry out a revised insurance law that considers mental stress as an occupational hazard. Credit card marketers, loan agents and substitute drivers will all be added to the list of those eligible for insurance coverage. People working multiple jobs can receive compensation based on their total income. However, some experts say the revised insurance law by itself can only go so far.
The approval process for insurance claims requires proof and documents issued by the company, which can be complex and time-consuming. To effectively prevent emotional damage, company guidelines must also be set under the Industrial Safety and Health Act.
Experts say businesses should be legally compelled to protect their staff from emotional abuse, with better policies on employee rights, welfare and working conditions. But most importantly, the customer comes first policy must be scrapped. Woo-yea, Arirang News.
That's all from us for now. More updates coming your way at 10 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.